Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Player Analysis. This is the series where I take a look at a player from a specific rhythm game, analyze their strengths and weaknesses, then take a look at a few of their best scores to show you how well they excel at their respective game. Today's episode is on one of the most talented players in 4K today. Their ability to adapt and improve in a multitude of skill sets has evolved to the point where they're virtually unmatched in some areas, and we're going to take a look at just how far that player has pushed that notion. Without further ado, let's take a look at Myuka. Myuka, previously known as Soing 2, is a 4K Osimania, Eterna, and Flash Revolution player from Chile. His beginnings with 4K stem back to around May of 2016, where he was playing 2-star maps at the time. Around 2 years later, we still see Myuka playing at a fairly average level, being capable of 190 BPM jump stream with admirable accuracy. But fast forward a year or so later to 2019, there's been an absolute explosion in his play, as his infatuation with the stamina side of the game allowed him to develop muscle and muscle memory at an absurd rate. By the time 2020 rolled around, he had pretty much cemented himself as one of the best stamina players in the world, if not the best to some, and he's ironed out other aspects of his play tremendously well, making him one of the most talented players the 4K genre and rhythm games in general have ever seen. With that said, let's take a look at his strengths and weaknesses. Myuka's playstyle is pretty much built for stamina, as he has a very minimalistic playstyle. He keeps his fingers very close to the keycaps the whole time, which conserves stamina due to the minimization of force he's putting into each input. While most top players in general do this, Myuka in particular seems to have found just the right muscle memory, which results in his amazing energy conservation skills for extremely long charts. This term can also be referred to as actuation point surfing. As for skill sets, his accuracy has skyrocketed over the last year and is now able to compete with the likes of Wonder 5193, Intelizer, Chikads, and more. His MA or Marvelous ratio is the most threatening in the entire game when it comes to fast accuracy at the moment, and some of his number ones are outright unrivaled in Osimania with his knack for obtaining amazing FCs and double S's, and really in general just has absurd comboing skills. Even in Eterna, I had gotten to witness his RA or Judge 7 accuracy in some online matches, in which he held his own quite admirably. His PA or perfect ratio shows up in virtually any score you see from him now. Whether it's 280 hand stream, 300 dense jump stream, 400 BPM streams, you name it, Myuka has it on lockdown, and it's very rare you'll see a sloppy score from him on almost anything. While he doesn't indulge in stream files as much, his stream speed can go well over 400 without him breaking a sweat, and he can even manage stuff in the 450s for a decent amount of time when he can control it well enough, and has surprisingly good burst speed on top of that. He mainly excels in the more roll-oriented streams, but his accuracy still remains to be pretty solid, despite those patterns being very susceptible to bad accuracy from constant pattern manipulation or intentional early great rushing. His biggest strong suit is obviously his stamina. His speed and stream stamina is one thing, but his jump stream and hand stream stamina are unfathomable at some points, with him being almost a rate ahead of every existing player on certain maps, which is an absurd thought to entertain given the amount of talent 4K has at the moment. When everything comes together, it's truly just jaw-dropping to see someone just play certain things for 5 to 10 minutes that most top players could barely hold on for a minute or so. Lastly, he's shown to be adaptable between various 4K games, and I'm not just talking about alternating between Eterna and Osimania. Recently, he decided to register onto the site Flash Revolution and obtained rank 1 within hours of being registered, along with setting some of the best scores in the entire game. FFR has a very distinct client compared to other games, with its awkward frame gaps and just feels generally different from other 4K games. But it doesn't faze Myuka at all, and now he's leading the highest division in this year's FFR tournament. Technicality isn't exactly a strength of Myuka's, even though he's been holding his own on FFR charts lately, which can be rather technical at times, but compared to other skill sets, he falls a little short in super fast technical files with lots of mini jacks to players like lmao, Mina, and myself. The same goes for technical accuracy too. He's shown some very impressive MA on stuff like Drop Dead or Nelv, but on the slower side, it's a little too much of a change up from what Myuka is used to, so piano files with tons of flams and polyrhythms can show to be a hindrance for his playstyle. Given Myuka's ability to adapt to new sets quickly though, I wouldn't doubt he can show some prowess on these types of files in the future. So now that we've gone over his strengths and weaknesses, let's now take a look at a few of his scores to demonstrate how strong his strengths really are in this game. When the Empress debuted in 2015, It became one of the most, if not the most competitive, ranked hard Osamania map in the entire game. Just with a quick look at the leaderboards, you'll find pretty much every top player here. 270 dense jump stream with super awkward one-hand trill patterns are nothing to scoff at, and only 7 people were capable of holding the title of being able to double S this today, and only 4 people have less than 200 300s. Myuka becomes the first person to obtain double-digit 300s on the Empress, just scraping by with 99 300s and a very comfortable number 1 spot. Myuka's stamina comes into play here, believe it or not, as in order to obtain such a ratio on maps this hard, you're going to need to hit a bit harder than usual without tiring out, along with some really good one-hand trill control coming into play too, which is not a combination many players can say they have at this BPM. Great accuracy play here overall, and to throw it all together, he ends up with a stellar unstable rate of 84.24. I had intended to use Myuka's near FC on Future Dominators 1.3 for this part, but then he DM'd me on Instagram with a score that blew me away much more that he got very recently. A near FC and over 6,000 combo on Fields of Despair 1.3. This chart is much more diverse than Future Dominators and requires a much stronger set of tools. You got your one-hand trill control for pretty much the entire map, stellar pattern transitioning between the jump trills and the awkward staircase pattern 24th streams, and really just hitting the 24ths in general. There's just a lot to unpack that he's doing here, and it'd be hard to sum it all up, but it's genuinely one of the best combos I've ever seen in this game. The fact that this solo is FCable alone on 1.3 deserves to be highlighted, and honestly this makes me wonder what he can FC moving forward.
Puta. Decente, ¿eh? Puta, pero el ratio es horrible. Está bueno. Muy bueno.
This is another score of Myuka's that doesn't need a lot of explaining. Astounding reading abilities by just being able to comprehend 450 BPM streams for this song, and the funniest part is that he more or less does better on the long stream, given he didn't drop a single good or boo, which requires ridiculous control. Great control, reading, and PA, especially for this speed, to cap off a great score. With the FFR tournament in full force this year, as it has the most stacked lineup the tournament has ever seen in its decade-and-a-half lifespan, brings the hardest files this game has ever seen too. Myuka makes the step charters look like they didn't even try to make the files hard this year, because he triple A's this as if it were the first round or two of the tournament. At 280 BPM, there's some nasty middle column transitions, dense jump stream, some jump jack jump trill transitions, and even some 24ths which equate to 420 BPM 16ths. Just to add more feel to the fire, it took him 15 minutes to get this score, and you get a full week to improve your score as much as possible. On round 7 out of 8 nonetheless. If we take a look at the leaderboard here for this song, there's a clear statement being made here, and that Myuka is looking to take this tournament by a long shot, and unless someone stops him, he's taking this one home at ease. If his insanely short presence on FFR to being the best FFR player in the world right now isn't adaptation, I really don't know what is. There's a common theme that happens with players that try to clear this stand, as there's usually one map in particular they'll perform a bit poorly on, and instead try to make up their percentage on one of the maps that suits their specific skill set more. Not Myuka though. His percentage stays basically unchanged after every map, and maintains the perfect amount of effort throughout the course, utilizing his trilling and jack stamina to the fullest extent, but also staying very calm and calculated to get the first ever clear on 1.1. I can safely say that Myuka is the most talented player in 4K at the moment. There are dozens of scores of his that I didn't get to cover in this video, mainly because a lot of them aren't recorded sadly, but I can assure you that he still has a lot more to give in this game, and it's going to be amazing to see in the future. It's not very common you see someone with this amount of stamina, and is capable of producing equally as crazy accuracy scores as well, along with randomly being able to adapt to the awkward frame gaps in engine and FFR, as he solidified himself in that game to be the best anyone has ever seen in just mere hours. I'm very excited to see what Myuka has in store for us in the future, because in my opinion, we're just starting to see a glimpse of what's to come. Huge shout out to Kyoto Toshino for commissioning this video, and I'd like to give a thank you to my patrons as well for supporting the channel. If you'd like to support the channel for more rhythm gaming content like this, feel free to check out my Patreon along with my other links below. I'll see you all in whatever video I upload next, and take care.